What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of
Ball Status.
That's right. This is the podcast where we talk about the business of health and the health of business. We are on site today. This is the day before the Nut Bash. If you don't know what the Nut Bash is, just use your imagination. That's what it is. So we'll just leave him we'll leave him there. So we have Patrick May, VP of Sales for America Labs and Core Nutritionals, and then we have David Dodrell, VP of Sales for Arms Race Nutrition, and special guest, the man, the myth, the legend, TJ Humphreys from ABE, but all black everything, but from I feel like a million other places as well.
I'm like a NASCAR of sports.
Yeah, so this could be a long podcast. I told him we're going to go through the origin story, but TJ has a lot of experience in this industry, in the business of health. So I wanted to grab him here before we start this party tomorrow and kind of pull him aside and kind of talk through his history, but more importantly, kind of the mistakes and the things you've learned through the years since you've been in this industry for a long time. So, well, today, I guess this podcast is sponsored by, so is it ABE? Is it ABE? Is it all black everything? What is it?
That is the multi-million-dollar question.
And is that by design?
No. So funny thing, because my partners who are in Liverpool, the brand was started in Liverpool. Mm-hmm. ABE stands for all black everything. And when we started thinking...
That's like a soccer term. Or a football term.
It's like a football term, yeah, right. But we just tell people, hey, call us what you want to call us. Like, I think a lot of people call it Abe. Have you tried the new Abe drinks? Have you tried the new Abe pre-workout? Yeah. I think it's probably going to graduate to just being called Abe.
I got it. I got a 4th of July promo for you. Lean into Abraham Lincoln. 4th of July promo.
You guys get that? You guys,
man, I'll take.
I mean, he would be a great representation.
Listen, I'm only asking for 7.5%. That's all.
Let's talk after this. That's
If you're thinking Abraham Lincoln, you're also thinking all black everything. Like
yes.
And that long black coat and that black beard.
I will tell you, man, that the most fun thing about.
We got a leaf blower going on.
We got jets flying overhead, leaf blowers.
Yeah, we're every type of disruptor is happening here.
It's perfect.
That's all right. One of the best things about developing this brand, though, was we get to develop what ABE is, right? And the cool thing about that was it's like you go to the gym and you look at what people are wearing. It's very rare when you don't see somebody wearing all black, right? And it means something. It's like when you want to bring your best, whether it's at night, there's a shit.
Man, we're getting it all.
It's Maverick.
That's our it's our flyby.
Holy smokes!
All right. Well, so anyway, so today we're gonna get into all that.
Yeah.
So we got the drinks. This is the new Batty Berry.
Yes.
Right. So
Batty Berry.
What is this supposed to be? Strawberry raspberry.
Strawberry raspberry.
All right.
Yeah.
So I've had way too much caffeine today. It's like 6 o'clock at night, and so. But I am gonna get in here and try this. I'm not pounding this.
This is a highly concentrated energy drink. Just you guys probably already know because you know what we're doing. But 200 milligrams of caffeine, 100 mgs of dynamine, and we put Vitacholine in it. So we didn't want to just come out with just energy. We said, look, we want this to have some real performance aspects to it. We had a dynamine there just because a lot of people that are in our space love the ingredient, although it's typically hard to flavor around. But I think we've done a pretty good job with it.
Yeah, I was surprised I was going to get actual raspberry in there.
This was probably my favorite.
Thanks.
The others, I'm just being transparent. I get a lot because you do focus on a lot of actives, right? Like there's a lot of entering into the market now that are just
might have to drink this
it's good, right? Yeah.
Just flavored carbonated.
That's energy,
water,
like caffeine and water.
Right.
Yep.
But this one has the least amount of active taste to me.
Okay.
Like I get a ton of raspberry. I think that tart of the raspberry hides some of that active.
I remember when you sent these the first time, and we had a manager's meeting, and the meetings go into like we'll have the meeting, then we'll work out, and then we go to dinner, and then we smoke cigars, and we hang out all night. And these guys were like pounding these drinks at like 8 p.m. I mean, they're in their early 20s.
That's Lance's fault. Yeah.
And they were like, man, these are great. And next thing you know, they were completely gone. I don't know. It was probably like 24 of them across 12. I mean, everyone was double fisting them. So
I actually, since I follow you guys on Instagram, I saw like the meeting room table was covered with our drinks.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is
the
job well done.
The managers definitely really like them. So
love it.
Appreciate the drinks.
Yeah.
Now, All right, let's get into it. So, because I actually don't know the whole story. So we've had a bunch of people on in the industry, and I love to get to know like where they came from and how they got to where they are today.
Yeah.
So you've been around for a long time.
Dude, I was going to say, how
where
many
did you
hours?
start?
Yeah.
I mean, I know
Yeah.
you said but right before we started this, you talked about you had a franchise at like juice shops or something.
Juice Stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me like,
Man.
from your growing up, like,
Yeah.
did you go to school? Did you not go to school? And then like, how did you get into this industry?
Sure. Yeah. So funny thing, I think I was an entrepreneur since I was like 6. I mean, I think you kind of know, like when you have that in you, like I sold popcorn on a sidewalk.
Yep.
Like, and that wasn't, my mom didn't tell me to do it. I just said,
Were you a
how,
Boy Scout?
no, I wasn't. I wasn't.
I crushed the Boy Scout
You
game.
probably were. A little.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So I wasn't.
I
that-
was a salesman by 6.
Okay.
Not an entrepreneur.
No, but-
entrepreneur. I was just knocking on doors.
Okay, but hey, that counts, man.
Right,
That's
right.
how you cut your teeth on, doing that stuff. But early on, I just realized that was something I wanted. Like, I knew I wanted to be in business for myself, right? Fast forward to college, went to UC Irvine, graduated with not a business degree, just a social science degree, because it was the easiest.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I didn't know what the hell I was going to do, right? So got my social science degree, but I go to this place called Juice Club, which is now Jamba Juice, which I'm sure you guys have heard of. There were lines out the door. I'm thinking, fuck, man, that's something I could probably do that. So I filled out a franchise application. I called my grandfather up, who was crazy wealthy. I didn't have any money. I filled out a franchise application. I say, hey, Gramps, I'm going to do this. They asked me $125,000 to open a store. Will you loan me the money? And in this codgy, old, rotten voice, he's like, you mean to tell me you're going to try to make a living selling fruit in a blender? And I said, yeah. He said, okay, I'll back you. So I filled out the franchise application, turn it in. 2 weeks later, it comes back rejected. I'm like, all right, well, you guys know rejection. I got 2 choices. I just say, okay, that's not for me, or fuck it, I'm going to do it myself. I took that route. I developed a franchise called Juice Stop.
Did you just open a store yourself, or did you from day one say, I'm going to run the franchise model? So like,
It's a great question. I had no intentions of doing franchising.
okay, so you opened the mom and pop shop.
Opened the mom and pop shop.
Got it.
And for 6 months, worked it open to close. Because, I didn't have money for staffing. And
Yeah.
there's more to this story, but I'll fast forward some.
Yeah.
I wound up getting into franchising because I didn't have a lot of money myself, but I wanted to grow quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So in 5 years, I opened up the first store in Lake Forest, California. 5 years later, sold it to private equity after I had about 160 stores open. Through 5 company owned and the rest were franchise.
Oh, no.
All our power just went.
We just tripped the wire.
Okay.
Is that recording again?
Has that ever happened before?
And we're back.
No.
That was
Do you guys
traumatic.
always record out here?
What was it?
No, we never record.
Just tripped.
We never record out here.
I was gonna say.
We're just kind of figuring this out.
This is on location.
I freaking love it, man.
Yeah. What? God.
Dang. Shame on them.
Well, hold on a second.
Yeah.
So I have so many questions.
No, I bet.
I have
yeah.
so many questions. So you go from, I opened up one mom and pop until I sold to private equity for 160 firm. I'm like, whoa, buddy.
I grew
I've been doing
quickly.
this for, it's been 13 years. We got 12 stores. Dude, I mean, like, okay, so
With the franchise model, I would sign area development deals.
let's start up.
Yeah.
So did you open 5 stores first and then, so you opened your first store and then like 6 months later you opened your second store?
The first 3 stores I had were my own.
Okay.
And I brought on
And how
partners
long did
like
that take?
LLCs.
Yeah, how long did that take you to get open?
I mean, 6 months. I was already onto my second store.
Okay.
In the first. So I probably had 3 company-owned stores open within about a year and a
Okay.
half. Pretty quick.
And they were doing well. This is when
Yeah.
Juice, what year is this?
Oh, man. Let's see, it would have been 94, 95.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when like that whole juice bar smoothie craze was just cranking.
Yeah, okay.
And there were a lot of other companies coming in with their own like, not Jamba Juice, but like Juice Mania, like all these random stores trying to do their own thing. But as we've talked about it, like there's a benefit when you've paid some of the dumb tax when you're the franchisor to be able to sell a franchise to somebody
So
else.
you went through the whole legal process and
Yeah.
paid for all the
UFOCs and all that
all
stuff.
the franchising documents,
Yeah.
and then did you have to go out and like sell these to people, or did you have people knocking on your doors at that point?
I love selling, as you guys know.
Yeah.
I just love it, right? Especially if it's something I love to do, right?
Right.
So I had actually probably the first 4 franchises that I sold were in the back room of my Lake Forest location. Like they would come in and they're like, yeah, I heard this is, we had like flyers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I would sign these little agreements in my little office and get the franchise, the fee and all that stuff right in my office there, right in the first store.
So how old were you when you ended up with
24.
150 stores or something like that?
Yeah, so I had 160, I think it was probably 162 when I sold the business.
Okay, and you sold it to private equity.
Yep.
So they can completely. You walked away?
Yeah, so that was when you talk about learning experiences, that was my first learning experience.
So was that good? I mean, if you leave it at that, people are going to think, man, he must have made bank on that and he was rolling
I got crushed.
How did you get crushed?
I got crushed because they convinced me. And look,
because there was still debt to open some of the.
No, it wasn't even a debt thing.
Yeah.
It was hey, look, we're gonna let you take a little bit off the table, which was not much at the time, and then we're gonna let you be a part of the organization on the go forward, because we had all these leases that we wanted to build out. We didn't have money. The reason we went to private equity was, hey, we don't have the money to build out. We really want to get back to company-owned stores.
Yeah.
So we went to the private equity route. I gave up control.
Yeah.
They brought in a guy who was the former CEO of Hardee's, which is, that's a great fit, right?
Yeah.
Hardee's, protein smoothies. And the guy was like 98 years old, right?
Yeah.
But long story short, they changed the name from Juice Stop to Juice Kitchen. Changed the menus.
That's terrible.
Bro, listen.
That is
buddy,
terrible.
If you saw, it was like watching you got this beautiful car and you send it through the car wash and it comes out the other side like a fucking beat up Pinto with graffiti all over it. It was just awful.
Oh,
it was awful.
So if you were still committed after they came in, how long did you stick around?
I was
to watch it go down.
Yeah, I was there for about a year.
Now, do those still exist today, or do they?
Strangely enough, if you pull up Juice Stop, Google search Juice Stop, there's shit in Nebraska.
So is it Juice Kitchen?
No.
They went back to Juice.
The franchises left their stores, left the banners up, left the signage up, and if you pull it up, you can pull up Juice Stop, Colorado, Nebraska, California. They're still.
And these are still franchises?
I don't know. It's been shit. It's been like 20 years, man. Yeah.
Okay, so then where does that take you then? You're 25 and you've already sold your first business.
You know what I did? I started servicing the stores with the supplies. So I said, you know what? I already know, instead of being on the front end of this thing, I already know what it takes to build the business.
Yeah.
So I became a supplier of juice bar products to my stores. That business was actually pretty.
Yeah.
That did pretty well.
Well, you're guaranteed. All you have to do is convince them they need the product to sell. You don't have to sell to the customer and make sure it turns.
No,
you just got to sell it.
I know that they need 14 cases of strawberries this week. They need 14 tubs of vanilla yogurt.
So how did you figure that? One of our core values is always figure it out. It's like my favorite.
Yeah.
It's my favorite core value. So how did you figure out how to be a distributor of food service products?
You know what? We just figured it out. Literally, it was one of those things because we were working with suppliers for years. So I'm like, okay. Freezer trucks, margins. We know what we were paying. We know what they were buying the products for. We're like, okay, that's kind of the margin that we're working from. Mm-hmm. We knew the kind of structure that we needed. Now, we only started it in Colorado, so we were servicing just the Colorado stores, but that was enough for us to make a living, for us to kind of stay involved with the stores. So it was it was a nice little transition.
So when you say us, was your grandfather still involved?
No.
Yeah,
thankfully I paid him off in a year and a half after that first store. So that was.
So did you have partners in this business at the time?
I did. Yep. Okay. Same guys. Actually, ironically, one of the same partners I had in that business was one of my partners when I started ProSeps.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
that's a big leap. That's like a 15-year leap.
Yeah. Okay. So what happened? So you're selling food products. I guess the Juice Stop.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Got me into sports nutrition? I was living in Colorado. I was doing these random real estate things. In the real estate market, it's up, down, all around, right? And at the time, it was down. And I was good friends with John Hoffman, who owned Lone Star Distribution.
Yep.
Lone Star was a small Texas distributor. And this is kind of right when I was getting pretty hardcore into the bodybuilding. I would always lift weights. I was lifting weights in college. Always loved fitness. But I didn't know how to sell fitness products, right? Like sports nutrition products and this and that. Lived in Colorado. Was doing this real estate stuff. John Hoffman calls me out of the blue. This is probably in 2003, 2004. And he said, hey, man, I just found out that the girl I'm dating is pregnant, and I just had a minor heart attack. And I said, one has to have something to do with the other. You know what I mean? But he said, can you come down and help me run this business? And I didn't know, Jack. I didn't know anything about sports nutrition, really. I mean, back then.
So how did you know him originally?
So he had seen what I'd done at Juice Stop. and I worked with him. You ever heard of a brand called City Blends? City Blends was a gym-only juice bar chain.
Okay.
He hired me as a consultant to build out that program, and he owned City Blends. So he was like putting these City Blends in like Gold's gyms in California and whatnot. So that's how I knew him. But he calls me out of the blue. He said, "Hey, get on a plane tomorrow, come down, and let's talk about it." So I flew down there, 20,000 square feet of protein powders and protein bars. This is before pre-workouts and stuff. This is when like ABB Ephedra drinks were flying out of the coolers. And I was walking in this warehouse going, holy shit, man, this is awesome. Yeah. Like I could do this, you know what I mean? But I started with him, and for the first year, he paid me, and he would laugh about it, paid me next to nothing, but I learned everything about the business, about sports nutrition distribution. The vendors, who the good ones were to work with, who the bad ones were to work with, inventory, you know, handling AR, AP, all that stuff. And then after that first year, I became his partner. So that's where I kind of got my start in our world.
And what year is this now?
I'm going to say 2004.
Okay.
Probably.
Okay. So ProSubs is kind of next then, right?
So
or is that not till
close. There's an in-between with our good friend Jack Owak at VPX.
Isn't it funny how it always comes?
There's always Owak always parachutes into stories somewhere.
Yeah.
And you know, so there's this podcast is not long enough to tell me about that year that I was there, but
so you went to VPX.
I went to VPX. So I actually sold my interest in Lone Star back to the guys, to John and Chuck. Went to VPX for a year to run it was initially to run an IndyCar race program. So I owned part of an IndyCar team. We ran in the 2011 Indy 500 or 2010 Indy 500, which was totally fun, like off the rails fun, right? But needless to say, working with Jack was not going to be a long-term thing.
Yeah.
So this was Jack IndyCar,
yeah, it was. So it was sponsored by. So he sponsored the race team. So it was.
VPX.
It was.
But at this point, it's
Redline.
VP. It's VP. Yeah,
Redline.
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 It's Redline.
Redline. Right.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So which was that part of my life was fun, but working with him was not. So
Sure, yeah.
So I knew like pretty quickly that I needed.
Never
to do
heard
something.
that before.
No, I'm sure it's never been said before.
Still searching for a good thing.
So fast forward a little bit. So Art Atwood, you know who Art Atwood is?
Oh yeah. When I was coming
a lot
up
of us OG
bodybuilding,
guys.
like I was those muscle magazines, all that, the bodybuilding.com forums, like I lived on there because I had, a desk job, and so I was at a computer all the time, and man, he was a freak. He was like the first 300-pound, just not the most aesthetic guy.
No.
Kind of big stomach, not good abs or anything, but like just a total freak.
Monster. Like hamstrings that just look like...
The legs are ridiculous.
Ridiculous. Anyway, he became a friend of mine.
Aaron, Cody, put up here a picture of Art. Of Art. His hamstring, his side chest shot, his chest and his hamstrings.
His hamstrings were ridiculous.
Most ridiculous, like total freak.
Like they don't even look real. They're like, okay, that doesn't look like a part of a leg. It looks like what happened, you know? But anyway, so he and I became great friends when I was at Lone Star. Okay. I was carrying professional supplements. If you remember, he had a product called Carbolin.
Yep.
Sold it to like all of us hardcore bodybuilder guys, but it was a small little brand.
Yep.
So he and I became great friends. He coached me through USAs, through nationals when I was doing my bodybuilding thing. Really kind of got me ready for all the stuff I did with Muscle and Fitness magazine.
Yeah.
So he was just a great friend. He passed away September of 2011.
Okay. 2011.
2011. He passed away September 2011. I was still at VPX at the time, but I was like miserable. His family calls me up and says, "Hey, we inherited this brand. You're in all of his notes. You mentioned, in his, this and that, and his yellow legal pads about, hey, I met with T." He used to take notes all the time. That was his thing. So they said, "Do you want to buy the business? Do you want to run the business?" And I'm thinking, shit, I've been an entrepreneur. You know how hard it is to be an entrepreneur. It is.
Yeah.
It's tough, man. And I was like, at that time, I was like 39, 40. I'm thinking, shit, man, do I want to do this again?
Yeah.
But I said, you know what? I've gotten this far doing and figuring stuff out. I'm going to do it. So I bought the brand. And if people knew what Art Atwood's brand used to look like, and then what me and a couple guys, Brian Icolina, a bunch of guys that...
So did you have were you the only owner, or did you have partners that came in there?
So...
Because I feel like everyone was kind of involved in ProSubs at some point.
No, for sure.
Yeah,
So I had, early on, I had a partner, was a dentist in Humboldt, Texas, that loved bodybuilding. He loved, and he heard that, I can invest in TJ Humphreys, who's this magazine guy.
Yeah.
And he's a great guy, but he has a bunch of money. He put in $480,000. That started ProSups as we know today, 480 grand. And we didn't raise money again for about 3 years after that. Didn't need to. We just kind of.
So it was you and him in the beginning?
So money partners were me and him,
Yeah.
and then Joe, who I mentioned that helped me with ProSups, that started ProSups, Joe Oblas,
Okay.
and then my brother. We brought, now this is where it gets really cool, because we brought a bunch of guys that I got to work with at VPX that also had the same issues.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're like, man, wherever you're going, we're going. So I'm like, dude, I can't afford you. Like,
Wait,
I don't
when
have
are we
any
going
money.
to insert Jack Owalk lawsuit? Does
Oh,
that
that's
come
yeah.
in? Because
Oh my gosh,
I
that's
don't
good.
even know if there is one, but I feel like the way this is going.
So
this
actually, thankfully, 11 years later, it has ended. The lawsuit has ended.
so there was one.
Oh, 11 years.
Okay.
Oh, and I could, that's a whole different podcast.
You leave
That's a whole
Bing,
different podcast.
you get a lost.
No, yeah, listen, no, we're good. But it ended. But a bunch of guys that said, man, you know what? They knew who I was because they worked with me kind of at Lone Star. They were at VPX when I was at Lone Star. They're like, okay, you know what? He knows his way around the space. Hey, man, if you're going to go over there, can you find us a role? And
Yeah.
of course, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to need help, right?
Yeah.
And this is back in the day. Growing brands is so different now than it was then.
Social media wasn't what it...
There was no.
Yeah.
There was no. I mean, it was like MySpace. You know what I mean?
Well, I remember the ProSups guys. You guys were like
We rolled deep,
the
dude.
hardcore. You rolled
Yeah.
deep. Like I'm talking tats and mohawks
Yes.
and like just like gnarly
Bro,
looking
nasty.
physiques. Like I remember seeing you. I remember running into you guys. I think we were at
2015
In Europa
Atlantic
show.
City, New Jersey.
yes.
It was
I
a
remember,
Europa
and
show.
it was just like,
us,
all you
us-
guys. You all had like the pointy goatees.
Yeah,
and
we
just
look. Yeah,
scary
we look.
as shit.
We look nasty.
And we,
Yeah.
we were like kinda
absolute
still
nasty.
new to this,
Yeah.
new to like
Yeah.
doing.
We had our tube socks on and our like New Balance.
Yeah, but
And
like
we're
the cool part was like
You guys were super
we
cool.
We were the only two brands in the gym prior
Yes.
to the event, right? Like nobody else was training, nobody else was doing
Yes,
the
man.
lifestyle,
Yep,
and
yep.
that's when like I developed a like man this brand, and we've always done really well
Oh,
with
yeah.
that brand,
Yeah.
and that was the level of respect for the lifestyle.
Yeah.
I remember us commenting that.
Appreciate
It was
that.
just like,
Yeah.
I remember like you guys were the only ones in there before the event with us,
Yeah.
like training balls to the wall.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, how are other people not doing this?
Isn't that crazy?
It just,
You know, it's a crazy. But that's what you fast forward that 12 years to what exists today. It sucks. That's the part of the business that kind of sucks,
Yeah.
right? Because I still get in the gym every single, like you,
Yeah.
like y'all
Yeah.
do, every single morning, man.
Yeah.
I mean, every single. So yeah, but so those guys come along,
so when did Ike come in?
right? Like 2012, man.
Where did he come from?
VPX.
Oh, so he
all
was
those
from-
guys.
okay.
Like literally, they all came like a merry band of unhappy employees. They all rolled into town in
You guys
Dallas,
are like
Texas.
a
Buddy.
biker gang.
Oh,
like
dude.
the ProSups biker gang.
Dude, our first.
I feel that's why you recruited him.
Look at him.
I mean,
Look
he's
at this
straight
guy.
ProSups.
Bro, he has been. He was at ProSups.
Right,
he was.
he
Yeah.
was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
now that makes
Come
a
on,
lot
man.
of sense. I guess I
Do
didn't
you
know
even
that.
have to guess?
Yeah.
No, but so it's funny because we had one weekend in 2012 when we started the brand. I flew everybody to my house. It was like the biggest meathead sleepover of all time. Like the house, my wife's like, I got to fumigate the house because the gas and all.
Oh.
It was disgusting, bro. Like people.
It was probably
cooking
a
food.
lot of fun.
It was a blast, right? For like 3 days, we developed what ProSups was going. Not professional supplements. Art had it, but what ProSups was going to look like, feel like, taste like. For 3 days, we locked ourselves in my house.
Is that when you came up with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? Was it?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
I have a-
because
I have a
those
quick
two
question.
products were your flag. That's what put
No,
your
100%.
No? Yeah.
Was it always professional supplements, and you then
We shortened it.
Shortened it.
Yep.
Or
it
you
was never.
changed it?
It was never. When Art owned it, it was always professional supplements.
So when you took it over, you changed the name
Yep.
to
Yep.
ProSups.
To ProSups and the logo, the
Okay,
PS.
okay.
That didn't exist.
I was just curious
Yeah.
if like kind of like.
Bro,
all
so
black
professional
everything,
supplements
Yeah.
pretty much, you know the white container of Core?
Yeah,
That looked
the-
like I printed it on my printer in the back of that store right there?
Yeah, and then you colored it in
That was
crayon.
that was professional supplements.
Yeah, but you know what's crazy? He had this really loyal, small following
Same
of
thing
people
with
that.
Core, right?
Same
Yeah.
thing. People go in the store, they know what they want, they go in and they get it, and that's special, man. That's magic when you can do that as
Yeah.
a brand. You know.
So what blew you guys out? It was the Dr. Jekyll and
It
Mr.
was
Hyde.
Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. And look, the reality is we were not the first pre-workout in the game.
Yeah.
We went in with Hyde.
At that time there was 1MR,
1MR.
Jack 3D.
Yeah,
Those
yeah.
were the two kings,
NO
right?
Explode, obviously.
NO
and some of our
Explode.
legacy pre-workouts.
Was C4
So the concentrates,
DMA yet?
Yeah, C4 was there. 1MR was there, but the big ones, the strong ones, were like 1MR. Jack
glory
3D was
days,
still
man.
around. Remember those days?
The glory days.
Yes. So it was still fairly a crowded space, but not like it is now.
Yeah.
But what we did, we said, look, man, we're going to go in. The formula's going to be a little bit stronger. We understand that that's not going to be for everybody, but we thought it was going to be for the market that we wanted to go after. And fortunately, we did that. But what we did, which was really a cool strategy, was we developed an opposite product. So if somebody wasn't totally into the hardcore, and the characters, Hyde and Jekyll, they play perfectly off each other in terms of strategy, right? You got Dr. Jekyll, primped up, nice doctor that turns into Mr. Hyde when he takes his crazy.
Well, the thing is, like, wasn't it like you're supposed to either take this or this? We had people coming in at Arlington and stacking them
and
together.
You were loving that as a retailer.
Like 600 milligrams of caffeine.
You're like,
probably.
$80 ring? Yeah, bring it. You know? Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
for sure.
No, we had people, you're right. It wasn't built to stack, but I think people did it anyway.
So what, so you guys blew up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Right? And so back then, without the use of social media, really, what do you attribute the growth of your brand to?
That's such a good question, man, because I think that really relates to like how brands are growing today, how opposite it is. Like we were feet on the street. We were events. We were bro hugs. We were training at gyms with retailers, training at gyms with trainers, training at gyms, doing stuff to spread the message. And we did magazine ads and stuff like that. Yeah. But as you know, I mean, those don't exist anymore. And really, back then, I don't really know how great they were for marketing, but what really got us catapulted was just how connected we were with consumers at events, retailers, distributors. We spent a lot of time on the road, man.
You did. I remember we went to China in 2019. And remember the big presence Pro Subs had in China?
Yeah. Wasn't that awesome?
Yeah.
I mean,
were you there?
I was there. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Shanghai Fit Expo.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, dude. That will never happen again.
No. No. It'll be the last. I won't ever see China ever again. Right?
That was crazy. I was like, wow, I didn't know Pro Sub. I think you had a Chinese like bodybuilder dude.
No, it was Lou. Lou Chen.
And I was just like, what a world.
Bro, isn't it crazy?
Do you guys, did Pro Subs, do they still do a lot in China now, or?
No, actually, obviously COVID destroyed everything. And now in China, I think what they've realized is that it's cheaper to make products there. Yeah. It's cheaper to make everything in China, right? But
there was and that's why we were flown over for that event, is because there was a lot of talk of people want American brands.
True.
And it was funny. Well, there's a whole other podcast story. We got to do a China podcast.
We should.
Dude, bring me back for that.
Dude,
I'm all over that.
It was the most incredible experience. Like I
agree with you.
It was so insane. But like when we were in that boardroom with CPT, and like they wanted us to sell them the product for cheaper than what we made it for, because they run their own manufacturing. But we're like, you're not buying like we can give you the formula, but like you're buying the American brand. That's what you flew us here for. You're for us.
Right.
And so like finally we got a deal done, but golly, that was.
Dude, China is, even when you were there, when I was there, it was such a great, what was cool about China at that time? To walk into the expo, you're walking by all these rooms, and in each room, there's like 150 young fitness people getting their certificates for personal training. I'm like, this is going to blow up, dude, because you got 150 people times 10 rooms all getting certified as trainers that are going to go and get thousands of people into fitness and nutrition.
It's crazy. And remember the call rooms that CPT had, where they literally jammed all these people into little like sales call rooms, and they're just calling gym. Like it was,
and working until like midnight, dude. Like I was at this one office. I'm like, yo, it's Saturday. Like there's people on the phones at like 8:30 at night. I'm like,
and I remember we got to tour their manufacturing facility, and it was pristine. Like
you think China? You got your stuff. Like their manufacturing facilities were better than most we've seen in the U.S.
Right,
honestly,
it was very mind opening.
I agree.
Right?
Like, I agree. It's a shock.
Yeah,
for sure.
And now we're like fuck China.
Well, it's funny. I think.
Just kidding. Send us your money.
Yeah. The reality is like the brands that are doing well there, I think, are probably, like your Legacy, you got some Optum, but I guarantee you they have manufacturing.
The Muscle Tech.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, they have manufacturing.
Well, Muscle Tech is Chinese at this point.
Yeah, it is. That's right. They're bought. Yep, that's right.
So, all right. So you're at Pro Subs.
Yep.
You're growing the brand.
Yep.
When did you leave Pro Subs? I mean, you guys were pretty big. When you left, you guys were... I mean, at your peak, you guys must have been a $100 million brand.
No, it's funny.
I feel like,
we were tracking. So I sold that business to a private equity group. I sold that about 5 years into Pro Subs. I did that.
So you still were running it at that
I was
point.
still, yeah. So I stayed on for 5 years. I had a 5-year employment.
So that was,
deal.
you start in 2012,
Yeah.
you sell in 2017,
That's
you
right.
stay on until,
Like literally, right? What, 2 years ago?
okay.
2 years ago?
Okay.
Yeah. So I stayed on through my 5-year employment deal. And this is no secret. I've been partnered with Nick at Rise for about 4 years.
Okay.
Might be a secret to you. I don't know if you knew that, but
I knew you were,
Yeah.
I knew you were now. I didn't
Yeah.
know when that started.
so it actually started pretty early on. We'll have to tell you that story offline. 'Cause
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
more to
yeah,
it. But,
for sure.
But about 4 years ago, it's a funny story. I wish Nick were here because it would be funny to tell it with him. But that brand was super small.
Yeah, yeah.
But Nick has a vision.
they were at our first Nut Bash in 2018.
Yeah.
So it must have been like right around that time.
But you know what I recognized early on, and I was glad, I'm so grateful that I had a chance to make an investment in that company, because I recognized early on a skill set that Nick has that was way early compared to what some of the brands are trying to catch up to now.
Mm-hmm.
And he was able to capture,
So what is that skill set?
I mean, he knows how to digitally market better than probably anyone I know. He has also some really
From a social sense, from a retargeting sense, from a what?
I
what
wouldn't
space?
say retargeting. I would say the messaging and the content. And he's got some good people that work with him. There's a kid named Jake that's hopefully he'll see this because he's a great kid. Super smart. And I think he understands what that audience, that 18 to 25, 18 to 28 is looking
Them
to see.
TikTokers. We call them
Hey,
TikTokers,
man,
right?
we got a couple here. Yeah.
Yeah, they got them TikTokers. You got them-
Damn TikToker.
Man, that hat over there, he
She
must be a
TikToker.
TikToker.
Yeah.
Oh, one of them over there?
Yeah, they're all
okay.
over the place. But yeah, so I recognized early on that he's had that kind of intuition that I think has really catapulted that brand,
Yeah.
right? So, but when I left ProSups, spent a little time with him.
Well, so we were talking about, you guys were tracking. I mean, you
Yeah.
guys were blowing up.
So yeah, let me go back to
Yeah.
that. So when I sold the business, I don't even think we had gotten into Walmart yet. We had met with Walmart. That was one of my, when you think about stories and going back, one of my biggest failures, I would say, at ProSups. Do you guys remember My Bar?
Yes?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I loved that product.
Yeah.
A lot of people love
that's
that
a
product.
bakery
And
bar.
My Cookie.
It was a bakery bar.
Bakery
bar.
bar. The My Cookies, they were like hockey pucks.
Oh my, they were
Yeah,
terrible.
yeah.
No, they were good for about 2 hours.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then after about a week, you could give them to NHL, like donate them away,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
or
yeah.
any of the local hockey thing, or skeet shooting. You
Yeah,
said
right.
skeet shooting would be good,
Yeah,
right? But My Bar, my biggest mistake, and this is something that we reeled from it too, because I thought because we were doing everything right, all we had to do is put a ProSups label on it or a Hyde label on it, but primarily anything we put a ProSups label on,
We'll sell.
bulletproof. We go into Sam's Club, a meeting at ECRM. You know the ECRMs?
Mm-hmm.
So sit down with the buyer at Sam's Club, and we're talking to him about pre-workouts. And bars come up, and cookies come up. And Ike used to bring samples with him everywhere.
Yeah.
He had silver foil samples. He's like, oh, I actually have some in my bag. Let me get them out.
Yeah.
So he gets out the My Bar. We cut
That's
them up.
how Ike
That is totally how I actually know. But we cut the bar up. The buyer tries it, and he said, holy shit. He said, do you make these? I'm like, yeah, we're making them. He said, when can I have them? I'm like, you serious? He said, yeah. He said, how fast can you make them? Long story short, we come up with a Sam's Club My Bar strategy, thinking like, oh, we're going to be in Sam's Club. He puts us in all stores, pallet drops.
Yeah.
And you know what we didn't do, man? We didn't fully vet out the look of the container,
Yeah.
the pricing. I thought, oh, the only other bar in there is Premier. Premier Bar is selling $12 for a 12-pack. We have to sell them for $22. It's okay. It's a My Bar. People will buy them for another $10 more. Big mistake. Not the Sam's Club customer anyway.
Yeah, right.
Lo and behold, within 2 months, 3 months, they weren't turning. We took chunky returns. It was like $1 million, $1.5 million mistake. Oh, no, dude.
That's the big thing that I think a lot of people don't recognize, that it's just like, just because you have a strong brand and you have really good products and the brand is moving and it's growing, you can get put in a position where you get placed somewhere, and if it doesn't turn, if you're working with these big companies,
Yep.
it's just like, pow, you're gone.
That's it.
It's like, what did you do
And
for
you
me?
have a short window.
And you
You
have a
do.
short window to prove it. And it's just like, and people think just because you get that deal, we don't celebrate those deals anymore. You
You
we
gotta
celebrate
wait,
the
right?
wins. We
Yeah.
celebrate those reorders and how fast the reorders come, because,
true, man.
it's just like, just because you get the deal on the placement, that is nothing. because they can pull you and charge you back and do all that other stuff. You know,
Well, especially now. I mean, because there's so many other brands that are doing really well in those big box retailers.
Yeah.
It makes more sense to add an additional flavor of one of those brands than take on a completely new brand.
Totally.
You know?
So let's stay here for 1 second.
Yeah.
So you introduce. So you're killing it with pre-workouts,
Yep.
the supplement game,
Crushing
the pills and the powders, right? Then you venture into functional foods.
Yep.
Right. And then I remember the ready-to-drink pre-workout where you punch the powder into.
that was cool,
So you
man.
guys were doing some cool.
was innovation.
You were doing
Yep.
innovative things.
Yep, very true.
So these are big risks,
They were.
right?
Yep.
And so maybe talk a little bit about that. Those like you're trying to expand the brand. So as brands are looking to venture into new categories and
Right.
new things.
Was that before or after the energy drink?
Before.
That was before that.
Yeah,
that was our
before that.
first RTD.
Yep.
That was our
where you
first-
push the top.
The powder and the cap.
Yeah.
We loved that thing, man. So where we found that, I was in a store and there was one company in the entire country that was doing these. They were like electrolytes.
Yep.
I'm thinking, shit, man, if we could do that in a pre-workout, because you're getting, because a lot of the RTDs now, some of the ones that we go up against, some of the ones you carry, you can't really do a full comprehensive pre-workout RTD because
can't
they're not
stabilize it.
stable, right? So we're like, man, this is a great, innovative way to do that. So, but to your point, it was successful, thank God. We had some glitches though, to be honest. Like there was
I
times
remember
that
some like
moisture would get in the cap.
Yeah, it
and-
would get caked up in the top.
but you know what's
sometimes,
crazy?
but-
It was so flipping cool.
Yeah.
That even if it caked up, people were like, "Screw it!" Like they just powered through it, dude.
Punch it harder.
Yeah, they just powered through it. It was such a cool little mechanism. But to your point, when you're a brand and you're trying to think of ways to not just grow, because if you just focus on growing revenue as a brand, you're gonna fail. You're gonna fail. You got to think of solutions, different solutions, and different ways to attract the consumer that the other guys aren't doing. And that's not always a revenue thing. Like I think and that's where private equity, I think, misses the mark a lot of times. I think there are a lot of bankers that are just chasing the revenue.
that top number.
That's it. And the reality is you don't always, you want to make money, right? But you don't, innovation is also as important to brand build as it is to grow sales, right? So those risks that you take, you really have to quantify them holistically, and you have to say, okay, how much of this risk is going to be, is it a revenue goal? Is it a brand awareness goal? The right innovation does both, really. And
I think that a lot of that, I can relate that to, licensing deals today, whereas a lot of times like licensing deals, if you can do it uniquely in a cool way, you're going to spend quite a bit of money on that license deal, but where maybe your profitability won't be where it's at, or even the top line, but the brand recognition and that cool factor that you can get from doing a real good license deal that is authentic and real is pretty darn cool.
dude, it's
And so like I relate that to kind of the license deals today.
Spot
almost.
on.
Yeah.
Spot on. Couldn't agree more. So I think like especially in today's space where you can't go to India anymore and get some crazy ass herb that, light your hair on fire and put it in a pre-workout. All those days are over, right?
Yeah.
So you got to figure out ways to really create excitement and innovation around, and it's either formats or flavors or licenses, right? And a couple brands have done those really well. Rise has done those really. Ghost, a lot of guys have done those really, really well. Some have not done them really well, to your point.
So you were growing this brand, you sold it, and then you stayed on, and you were continuing to do.
It was frustrating. I might as well share. So for 5, it's kind of like this. I think when you turn the keys over to a business that you started from scratch, that you poured your heart and soul, like, when the iPhone memory pictures come up and they bring you to tears, like every time, he's like, God dang it, man, those were good days, right?
So was it like your hands are tied a little? So you were probably close. ProSubs was at its peak when you sold, and then it went down a little bit.
We were run rate about 65 million.
That's a big brand.
That was big. And that was before social media, man.
Yeah.
And that was before direct-to-consumer. Like our direct-to-consumer business, nobody even gave a shit about it. You know what I mean? It was like
you were in all the mom and pops.
Retail, right? Yeah. So it was a big number,
And then you continue to do a bunch of stuff for them, like the innovation. So like you sold before the energy drinks or after the energy drinks?
So I actually was there when we did Hyde Power Potion.
Yeah.
Which was, again,
man,
great
that one. That flavor. I don't know if you dumped a bag of sucralose in those things.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what happened on
Dude,
that.
let me tell you. And this is no, I'm not knocking anybody for it because we all tried. Never approve a 1 ounce sample of an energy drink.
Yeah.
Drink the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
Anybody that wants to do energy drinks or drinks or bars, bro.
Even functional foods.
Drink. You got to
like
eat the whole one.
But it's not even one. It's like you eat
right.
the one, let it still come back a day later, eat another one, drink another one. Is it do I want to come back to it?
Right.
Yeah.
So Doug, we're taking these little half-ounce sips, punching you in the face with flavor. You're like, wow, this is great.
Yeah.
Let's run 12,000 cases of it. You know?
Right. Yeah.
That
yeah.
sounds like a great idea. Right. So we did that. And I will tell you though, it was still early on. So it was Bang, but we were like, no, I think C4.
We were.
I remember. Right there. You were right there
It was,
too.
It was the BSN Endo
Yes,
Rush.
You guys were right there too.
We were right there. You guys were there. It
was like a race.
We were all trying to go after Bang.
Yes.
because
I
Bang was on the
remember
roller
going
coaster.
into the Muscle Foods meeting, and
They
it was
showed
like,
us because we had different renderings of the original Miracle Labs, and we were like, which one do you guys like? We had 3 different
That's
drawings.
cool. Yeah.
And they said, well, just so you know, BSN, here's their can, and here is Hyde. So these are the other 2 that you're going to go up. I said, we were like, at this, we didn't know our head from our ass. We're like, okay, cool, whatever. So which one do you like? And but I remember that. That was before it's the craziness of today.
Yeah, and so that was another, I would say put your foot in a bear trap moment, right?
Yeah.
Because you're trying a half ounce of drink, and then you run a bunch of cases, and you get people saying, oh, I could drink the first ounce, but after that I had to throw it out. I'm like, okay, that didn't work out so well. But obviously Hyde itself, we really leaned heavily on that franchise, and I think today, Proceps still has. I mean, look, Proceps has gone through a variety. When I turned it over, they bring in their people and they want to change things to make it more mainstream, and it's just hard, right? Because you.
But
see
that was
happen.
and we saw that. Like I saw that
sure
as a retailer and a consumer of the product. Like, man, some of those hardcore. I see it in Gaspari, and I tell Rich this. Like when he'll be here tomorrow.
Yep.
I mean, like that hardcore shit was back in the day.
Yeah.
Like the Proceps and the Gasparis.
Yeah, man.
And maybe that's just because I'm old and like that was like the thing. But like that stuff was cool, and like people were like coming in just fiending for that stuff.
So, dude, we're tripling down
Yeah.
now with ABE. We're tripling down on the fact that people want that. Meaning like that all black everything, that
Hashtag fuck
swagger.
your feelings.
That swagger.
Hashtag F your feelings.
If you're feeling.
There you go, bro.
Yeah.
So the fact is that's how to be honest, I've sold this to a lot of retailers by saying, look, everyone's overcorrected.
Yeah.
Everyone's chasing this lifestyle, be everything to everybody. I'm like, you don't have to be that way, right? Know your space, lean in, and look, lean in, right? And do it one way. And the reality is, am I going to
Get to work.
This guy with his F-bomb shirt over there.
am I going to get the, works out, does hot Pilates once a week soccer mom to buy cases of drinks from you guys? Maybe, maybe not, but that's okay. Right. And it's, so we're leaning into kind of that more hardcore,
Yeah.
and it's not, I think it's coming back around. Look, we're tripling
hoping.
down on it,
I mean, you asked me over there, like, are you a little sad you're not doing American Energy? And quite frankly, it was the right business decision for us because we have so much other good stuff. So I don't want to keep pouring money into something that, like, we were fighting an uphill battle. Totally. So it's kind of, I mean, this, and I think the cool thing for people to hear in this podcast is that even though both of us and our teams have had wildly great successes, there's been tons of times where you're just bombing out. So just because, but look how much you've learned during those to get where you are today. So like, it's kind of cliched, but like your road to the top isn't like this. It's got to be like this. Nobody
says like this.
Yeah.
Nobody's.
Yeah.
I've been around a lot of really successful people that are way more successful than I am. And I've had great friendships with those people, and they tell me the same stories, man.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a MyBar story. Everybody's got a Hyde Power Potion story. Everybody's got a Miracle Lab story, right?
I want to interject one thing because it really reminded me of when you said with the My Bar, My Cookie, when you were at a point, and this is a great, we love Jim. Do you know who Jim Collins is? He writes the book Good to Great and How the Mighty Fall.
Yep.
Just an amazing, like it's my favorite business books of all time. And we talk about it all the time on this podcast. And so one of the things that in the book, How the Mighty Fall is, there's like different stages of when a brand is growing. And one of the stages is hubris. And it's when your brand is growing so fast and you guys are just crushing it that you think you can slap your name on anything and it's going to sell. And there are a couple brands today where I see that.
I do too.
And, no disrespect to them, so I'm not going to put their name out on here because they're doing amazing things, but they're also trying to touch everything. And you almost got to check your growth. You got to be disciplined about your growth, because if you think you can be the best at everything and slap a label on it, the mighty fall.
Exactly.
And it's a slippery slope. So I just wanted to point that out, because that's exactly what I feel like happened there,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
You know,
100%.
so
And I think any brand that goes through, a growth, kind of a nice growth trajectory is going to hit those moments. And you just hope that they're not big enough to where you don't have to close the doors and lay a bunch of people off. Unfortunately for us, I've always had great partners. I've always, been successful enough to take, you got to take $1 million return. Yeah, it sucks. But we've been able to weather it, right? But not everybody can do that,
So you leave a couple years ago, ProSups, you step away.
Jump over to help Nick for about 6 months at Rise.
Okay.
There, I spent some time with him developing a Walmart strategy. With vitamin.
So you already had a relationship. I feel like you have a lot of good retail relationships in this industry.
Yep.
So you already kind of had a relationship with Walmart and kind of knew the ins and outs of how that beast works.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and I didn't know it first. I mean, we learned, we kind of learned along the way, right? But I had the relationship, and then.
So wait, ProSups was in Walmart?
ProSups, I believe. So when I was there, for sure. I mean, when we sold the business, I think we either just got into Walmart or got commitments to go in and not necessarily done the pipeline fill. But yeah, ProSups is still in Walmart.
Okay.
So it's been there for.
And so then you went over to Rise and you helped them move into.
Just to move into that space, which the guys, I know the executives at Vitamin Shop hate my guts for that. But the reality is, and I'll just say it on this podcast, all boats rise. And I'm telling you, points of distribution, all boats rise. The more people that can get their hands and mouths on these products are going to benefit everything from brick and mortar to mass to convenience. It's all about distribution.
It's so hard to get
Pat knows this.
The mom and pop guys to
get the mom and pops to.
It's so hard.
I know. Yep.
And your heart lies with those guys.
No,
and you try to walk them through it. And
you know what I do? You know what I always do, and that's what we do for these guys. Obviously, Lance is an expert at this. I just try to create a separate experience for them that is special to the brick and mortar. And you guys know this because we work with you guys like this. Things that I can't and wouldn't do with mass retail, I do with you guys. You know, whether it's demos or samples, flooding you with samples or T-shirt giveaways, things that are more meaningful to the brick and mortar retailer.
What the mom and pop doesn't understand, I think gets lost, is that like by you putting it into other places, you put it into Vitamin Shop, you put it into Walmart, getting the eyes on the brand, and they might only have 5% of your total SKUs.
That's the other thing.
But the mom and pops can carry 100% of your SKUs.
So spot
now
on.
There's a little bit more recognition there, and at the end of the day, the people are going to the mom and pops for the people that work in there, and if you're going to lose your client over that, I mean, like, your people are going to come see you.
Yeah.
And right now you give them they're going to recognize that brand when they're out somewhere else, and they're going to come to you for that brand. So like, I really don't think any mom and pop sales were really lost.
You can see it. I'm guessing, again, we don't have to share numbers, but I'm guessing the guys that have done a really good job that are now in Walmart, you guys probably still sell a decent amount of, i.e. Rise, i.e. Bucked Up, it's awareness, right? And so I think there's a way that you have to manage all the channels a specific way, but it is very difficult because the old school brick and mortar guys, it's tough because you do a lot, especially at ProSups. They built ProSups. Without those guys, I wouldn't have had Walmart.
Yep.
I wouldn't have had Vitamin Shop. I wouldn't have had GNC,
So this day and age with GNC going through its ups and its downs through bankruptcy and now rising again, and then Vitamin Shop performing pretty well, but now Walmart really stepping up into the game. Like, where is the place of a brand that you really feel like moves the needle the most at this point?
Gosh,
I don't want you to piss off all your buyers now, but where do you think that is?
I think there's a place that a brand needs to live for its voice, and then there's a place where a brand needs to live to experience, right? I think there's a lot of benefits that brick and mortar and specialty retail, i.e. national retailers like Vitamin Shop and GNC, a lot of your brand voice comes from what we do at brick and mortar and through the national retailers, the gym chains like One Life, and we worked at One Life. A lot of what you communicate out comes from those, but I think a lot of experience that you won't get because foot traffic doesn't exist in a lot of, even Vitamin Shop. I went on a Vitamin Shop tour a couple weeks ago. We went into like Yes,
I
you were there.
I
You
trailed
were right
you guys.
behind us.
Yeah,
exactly.
I trailed you guys.
I love that actually. They're like, hey, a guy came in that
Well,
looks
it
like
was
you, but
cool
he's a little
because
bigger.
like
Yeah.
in the vitamin in the national retailer world,
Yeah.
right, and especially in Vitamin Shop during that COVID, like reps used to come in and visit all the time,
Yeah.
even in our mom and pop shops, and it's
That-
the road has failed,
That's right.
has slowed down.
It has.
Right.
It has.
And so for one brand to come in after the other in a 2-week period and these
To show 'em love that
they're jazzed up. You know,
They
they're
love it.
super excited.
But if you were there like I was there and you sat there for an hour, you might had 1 or 2 customers walking in there. The reality is foot traffic is down in a lot of brick and mortar stores.
Yeah.
So getting the experience of your brand, getting mouths and hands on your products in high traffic areas creates awareness for everybody. So I think the winning retail, getting into Walmart is a huge benefit to brands that are looking to build overall, not just revenue, but awareness, because it would be almost impossible to create brand awareness if you just relied on brick and mortar stores. I know there's a lot of brands that would disagree with me on that. I just firmly believe, especially in the digital age now, unless you really own that space, or do very well there, it's hard to get.
Well, yeah,
traffic.
the people that don't necessarily see that are the brands that are smaller brands that are starting out. I think in every young entrepreneur, they're very, this is my brand. I'm going to do it this way.
Yeah.
But like to be an 8 or an even 9-figure brand, like you need that. You need those big needle movers to move the brand, because you're never going to crack a couple $1 million if you don't.
There's
right?
no
Like,
way. There's
yeah.
no. It's just not. There's not enough bodies.
Yeah.
Going into the ultra specialty retail or even the national retail. It's just not enough. And let's face it, because we're in Vitamin Shop. You go in a Vitamin Shop. I've got 3 flavors of pre-workout in a field of 900 pre-workouts, and I'm the new guy on the block.
Yeah.
Right. So there's
Oh, yeah.
challenges. You guys know.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
for
if
sure.
Doug, if anybody, you guys know.
Yeah, for sure. So we have a couple minutes left. I want to get to Abe.
Yes.
So you go help Nick for a little while, and then
This is a funny story.
So
I'll
how
make
do
it
you
super quick.
get into? So this is applied nutraceuticals, right?
This is
Like it's
applied
gonna-
nutrition.
Applied nutrition.
no, applied
So there
nutrition.
is a applied
And
nutraceuticals.
it's local, and it's this more homeopathic. They do like homeopathic type,
Okay.
like supplements and stuff, but that's not the same.
okay.
Tom Ryder is the owner of Applied Nutrition.
Okay.
He and I have been friends for like 7 years. I bet
he-
you know Tom.
He's in the UK.
He's in the UK.
Okay.
He started Applied Nutrition. He didn't start it. He bought it. He was a retailer, and Applied Nutrition was just a protein brand. He's like, you know what? I want to get my own brand. So he bought this brand, started with protein. 2 years after that, he said, I need a pre-workout. All these hardcore ones are floating in from the U.S. because at the time, the gates were wide open.
Yep.
We were shipping Hyde everywhere. And he's like, man, I need something to compete. So he wanted to create more edgy, line of products. And they sat around a table, similar like we did with Hyde. He said, what do we call it? He said, well, it's got to be black, man. Everything is coming into the UK. It's like hardcore, and it's black, and it's edgy. Everything's got to be black, all black everything. And they're like, all right, that sounds pretty good, so let's call it that. So he comes up with a name. I run into him years ago, probably 3 years ago. And
So what year was that where he came up with this?
It's 2016.
Okay.
So ABE has been around since
Yep.
2016. Now it's the top selling pre-workout in Europe, the powder.
Yeah.
And he's got the cans out there too, which are cranking. But I ran into him. He and I would run into each other, all the Phoebos and the Body Powers and all the shows in
Yeah.
Europe. We'd always like bro hug and have a drink and stuff like that. A couple years back, he said, man, I've always wanted to get my brand going in the U.S. And this is a whole different podcast. How many successful international brands have you seen make a mark here in the U.S.?
Yeah.
Outside of Muscle Tech, which is Canada, we're on the same piece
My
of dirt.
protein does like $1 billion, and they're not.
And
in
they,
the US.
yeah, they're not even, they don't, you don't even see them, right? How
Yeah.
did they not do it, right?
Yeah.
Point being, like, it's, so he and I would have this, we met, he's like, man, I want to get this brand here. What do I do? And I'm like, well, I'm kind of busy right now. Turned out, I'm like, you know what, this might be a good opportunity for me. So we connected, and he said, look, you ready? And I said, I'm ready. So we're partners. So I actually own part of the brand, the U.S. version. So it's Applied Nutrition USA.
So that is a USA company.
It's a USA company.
Okay.
But all we're promoting is not just energy drinks and pre-workout. We're having a full line, which you guys I'm sure know about because I'm sure Lance tells you. Isolates are coming. A pump gel is coming. Pump powder, fully dosed pump powder is coming. 4 flavors of isolate are coming. We're going to continue to expand flavors on the drink. We have a ton of free pre-workout flavors already, so we're probably not going to.
All right. So here, two questions to finish up here.
Yep.
So you built a brand during a time when there was really no social media. You've been involved with Rise to some extent in different areas, and you see their digital first presence.
Yep.
And then now you're building another brand from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
What is your brand strategy with this? Share the goods for the piece.
So I will tell you, I took all of my learnings, meaning all my feet on the streets learnings, the pros and the cons. I took all of my learnings just because we're learners, right? A lot of us we're intellectually curious, and we always sit back and watch. But all the learnings I saw was social media and what's really transacting with consumers, right? So I'm incorporating all of it. I mean, we're doing feet on the street. And obviously, we're here, but for a lot of reasons. But feet on the street, I believe, is still important, as I know you guys do as well.
Sure.
But I've got a great team of creative people that have onboarded some really significantly impactful athletes and influencers that have done a fantastic job getting the message out of who we are. I mean, there's the digital ad campaign stuff. But
so is that higher end influencers, or is that micro influencers, or is that ambassador,
no,
Missy Soccer Mom ambassador?
No.
Or?
So no, we're really obviously with the branding. Those that follow us can see we're kind of an edgier brand, but we're really, our influencers range primarily. They're probably in their early 20s for the most part, guys and girls in their early 20s. I would say it's funny because now it's not bodybuilders. It's not girls. It's not even fitness girls, right? Meaning competitive fitness girls. For us, it's not. We're going after more of that person that likes to look good, likes to feel good, likes to take edgier stuff because they do like to perform in the gym, but it's not a competitive performance.
So when you're going to launch this brand in the U.S. and you tell your partner, all right, we're going to have to go on a recruiting. We need to spend a gazillion hours on Instagram. We need to find the 100 micro influencers that are going to move our needle. Is that basically like the conversation?
So you know what's hilarious, man? And it's funny because in Europe, you don't have to do that. In Europe and international, it's all about distribution points. Like, because you have retailers that don't carry 900 pre-workouts. They carry 5. And if you're one of the 5, you don't need a Noel Diesel. You don't need a high-powered, highly paid influencer to drive awareness because you got all this traffic going into these stores and you're only one of 5, right? So it has been, if Tom were here, he would agree. It's been a constant conversation that we've had, evolving conversation that we've had to have about marketing.
You're like, no, I need to spend this money to recruit these social media people. Yeah. And he's like, what the heck do you need social media for? Dude, just put it in the store.
You want to hear, that's what he says. Yeah. He said, he said, TJ, the distribution you're getting is great. What are you talking? I said, no, just because it's
there. But then you don't move it.
Right. Just because it's there, it's going to come off the shelf. So,
I feel that.
Yeah.
And then all the mistakes you've made. Right, and I mean,
how long you got?
I mean, there's in a positive way.
Yeah.
So, is there anything that you truly regret in this, or is it one of those things where, like, you really learned something from all this? Was there a major thing there that you would like to redo in this process, or do you really feel like what I like to think a lot of people think is that, like, those mistakes were made for a reason because now I'm here where I am today.
Dude, I could tell you, I wouldn't ask for a mulligan on anything I've done wrong. Meaning, I've taken my, when I hook the ball into the lake, I'm like, okay, adjust the swing. You know what I mean? Like, I've learned from every single misstep. I don't think I would take, now my private equity partners would probably wish I took back some of my mistakes, but I don't think I would take back any of it, right? You put it perfectly. I think you hit those bumps. Because now if someone were to ask me, okay, TJ, put together a brand, and that's basically what we did here, from scratch. What elements would you include? What missteps would you avoid? I have all those. Yeah. I already know, right? And you guys can tell by the way the products taste, the way they work, the way the formulas are, the marketing we're doing. We're checking all those boxes, which is exciting because, look, I mean, you were to ask me to start this 10 years ago, it'd be probably a different story, Yeah.
I mean, the funny thing that I will note on this is that when you're just starting and you make those mistakes, they feel like the end of the world.
Oh, man.
And it's like a $500 mistake. And now a $500 mistake is about 16 seconds on a Monday, right? Like, right. And it's just like, and it's funny how you look back and you freak out. Like the first legal lawsuit letter or something you get.
My God.
Like I almost I think I almost had a heart attack at like 20 some years old, right? And now it's just like, now you just kind of go like this, and it's just another letter, cease and desist. Okay, whatever.
Okay. All right, yeah.
You know,
it's so funny. It's
but now, and it's just like, we have this problem. There's $40,000 product we need to throw away. Like, you know, it's just.
But you know what's crazy? I don't know if you've had the same experience. The barrier of entry into the space is so low.
Yeah.
There's always new brands coming in and going out, right? Because even though the barrier of entry is low, anybody can get into it. To really grow and do it the right way, you got to have some experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the story that we try to tell is like, there's not many brands that have been around for 19 years. A lot of people don't know we've been around for 19 years.
Yeah,
but like, it's been a long road.
Yeah.
It's been a long road. I mean, we're literally selling them out of the back of our truck. And it wasn't, and people ask us this all the time. We just did an interview the other day. I'm like, I really feel like we're just now maybe figuring it out like 10% of it, right? Like, you know, like we're just scratching the surface. And it's not to belittle where we're at. It's just, I feel like there's still so much more to do in so little time. It's just like, it's exciting, which makes it exciting.
I think the biggest challenge, I think, for all brands, including yours, mine, is you always have to be thinking ahead. Because you can't take yesterday with you. Yesterday you can't turn into today. Like yesterday was yesterday. You got to think today. What's the next thing, right? You got to be. That's where it's where it gets challenging but exhausting.
Yep.
Is you have to constantly. There's no pause. You know what I mean? Like in this space, it's so fast moving. You got to be thinking what's next.
And it's one thing to capture lightning in a bottle one time,
Yeah.
but to be able to do it multiple times is very difficult. I think you see it a lot in this industry where like somebody does something crazy and it just, for whatever reason takes off, but to be able to do that again and again and again is very, very difficult to do.
I agree.
Well, that's what actually interests me about you so much, because you have been in these positions to where you've sold VPX, you've sold ProSups, and you've built these relationships along the way.
Yeah.
And at least what I've learned over people that kind of, we'll say brand hop,
Yep.
but I feel like you've done it the right way. What you're going in, you're reestablishing like just a new brand.
Yeah.
And I feel like you run out of favors eventually.
Yeah.
Right? But it has been so impressive to see that you can go from ProSups to launching something like this.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about it. And it was impressive that a new brand launches at Vitamin Shop and has a POP out in the window. Like that's not easy.
And to close, I'll just say, I think if I could give all these your young listeners the best advice, do what you say you're going to do. Like when you start a business and you start a brand, even if it costs you money, if you shake hands with somebody and you say you're going to do it, that's what's kept me in the game, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've made promises that have cost me, but I've lived through them. And those same buyers that have given me a chance time and time again, they remember those things, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, even as an employee, right? Like, if you're working with somebody, working for somebody, like, have some integrity. Do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, man. I think that's gold. That's where we end. Right there. Do what you say you're going to do.
Say what you're going to do, period.
Yeah, if you can take something away, that's it. Guys, well, TJ, we appreciate you.
That's great, guys.
I'm looking forward to tomorrow and the rest of this weekend. Thank you for coming. And guys, till next time, keep crushing it.